Well, quick one. What is your mood at the moment? Of course, it's a Monday and the commencement of a new week. A lot of people are excited, but not everybody is feeling happy. And one of the reasons that has accounted for unhappiness in recent times is the fact that the power has not been stable. Doomsday has been upon us for a very long time. And this afternoon, that is basically going to be the thrust of our conversation. We welcome to the States. My name is Paa Kwesi Schandorf. As always, we have a guest to dilate the issues properly. We take a breather. When we come back, the conversation continues. Don't go anywhere.
It's that time of the year again when the Methodist Education Unit allows all Methodist schools to experience Methodism. It's the launch of the Methodist Education Week 2024 on the theme Discipleship, Growing into Christian Maturity. Activities lined up for the celebration is as follows. Tuesday, the 7th of May 2024 is the Connectional launch happening at the Wesley Towers Auditorium at exactly 10 a.m. Wednesday, 8th May 2024 is the launch and talk on the theme In All the Regions and photo exhibition. Thursday, 9th of May 2024 is competition on drama, preaching, singing, and reading. Friday, 10th May 2024, time with PTA, SMC, increasing parental support in education and combating truancy. Saturday, 11th May 2024, cleanup exercise. Sunday, 12th May 2024, Thanksgiving and fundraising in all societies in aid of renovation of our schools. Speaker is the Presiding Bishop, Most Reverend Dr. 𝗟𝗵𝗏𝗏𝗏. Chairman, the Director, Tertiary Education, Bishop-elect Accra Diocese, Very Reverend Dr. Ningmai Olenu. Special Guest of Honor, Deputy Director General Management Services, Mr. Stephen Kweku Owusu. It's the Methodist Education Week Celebration 2024.
Asio tware kwan opani ene hwan ye bo kwan koto asio frititi tete odomankoma die yakwa akoto no kwan ya faso koto no enya de kro enti mpani nse faso koto enti menya pani nse krokoto faso koto eye nhwehwemu ade ko krokoto no ho enti nsuo eye pani yekoto e edu fasa akwa we so ekase nyame ene de edikan e wa kwan nyina mu efise ono de o ho ene yebeto no obo ye ene yebehu no enti yakwane aye faso hunu nyame no ekire ejina baabia yete ene ya mamre so enti sa nyame krokoto no obehu ni ye ya agese wo kwan ya ono abowo nyansa ma watimi abo ato wo na mpani fu asai de ato ho ama wo no uhunu sa kwan no na faso de sum ni ye
empanyi betrase na yeso ya adwen hwe yanim na ye nchekura.
Praise God, praise God. Christ in tea, you respond, yeah, at this year. I'm excited to announce to you, friends in the Lord, Are you seeking for a platform where you can pray? Ope baby abeso bompai. Na oni nyami edi inkita ho. Bibi chire so. Ana amanye bi na bese nkum. And you come home. Let's go into the prayer room on WTV every Friday 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. to meet seasoned ministers of God that God has raised to impact your life. Remember, John Wesley said, I have too much to do, therefore I spend several hours in prayer in able to do it. That is why we are calling upon you. Meet myself, Reverend Hosea Osei, and the Evangelism Mission Renewal Directorate as we lead you into the prayer room where we encounter Christ. And I believe your life will never be the same. Call your friends, your loved ones, every Friday 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. where we will encounter Christ. God bless you. See you on our screens on WTV every Friday 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. God bless you.
Right, thank you very much for your patience. You are still tuned in to The State here on Wesleyan Television. Don't forget that we are streaming live on Facebook as well as YouTube. But like I earlier indicated before we went on that breather, today is a very important conversation. The importance attached to this particular discussion is the fact that it affects the generality of the populace. Whether you're working in the office or you stroll the market, wherever at all you are, the current energy crisis would have an impact on you. But before we delve into the substance of this discourse with our guest who already is seated, I want to run you through a couple of facts regarding Ghana's energy crisis in recent times. Don't forget that it's a perennial crisis, but we're bringing you up to speed with the development in recent times. So in the first quarter of 2024, of course, many Ghanaians have not been happy, and that is because that was where it all began. And in the light of this experience, many Ghanaians called for a load shedding timetable. I called for it. I'm sure you at home was also looking forward to a timetable. The reason for the call was simple, so that you are able to regulate when to prepare your stew, when to refrigerate something, or when to really know how to go about your everyday business. Now, on March 11, 2024, the Electricity Company of Ghana declined the call, attributing the situation to challenges with some of their distribution transformers being at full capacity. And then followed was the PURC that came into the conversation on March 18, 2024, directing the Electricity Company of Ghana to furnish it with a load management timetable by 2nd April 2024. I'm still running you through the timeline in recent times. Now, the outage, however, persisted, but the ECG insisted that there was no need for a load shedding timetable. Now, we'll pause here. This is where the agitations actually began, when the Electricity Company of Ghana intimated that there was no need for a timetable, despite the fact that the power supply was erratic. So that was when civil society kicked in, journalists kicked in, the generality of the populace. Everybody was asking, but if you are not giving us stable power supply, why won't you even give us a timetable? We continue. So the outages persisted, indeed, but the ECG said otherwise. Now, speaking at an event in the Ashanti region, this was the height of it all. We heard the the energy minister speaking in the Ashanti region, Dr. 𝗟𝗓𝗄𝗪, saying that there was no need for a timetable, and the challenge, and that those who were challenged, who needed one, had to produce one themselves. That many described as arrogant. Many people characterized his comments as, needlessly snobbish and extremely insensitive. Because, of course, if you are the sector minister and people are beckoning on you to provide a timetable, ordinarily, your language must be courteous, but he was a little bit snobbish there, and that really infuriated a lot of people. PURC will later impose a heavy fine of almost 5 million Ghana cedis. The amount actually is 5,868,000,000 Ghana cedis on members of the ECG board who served from 1st January to March 18, 2024. That one also had its own controversies. So we proceed. On April 19, lawyers representing the ECG board members disputed the money, the fine in question, and their argument was quite simple that, well, the board managers, the board members do not take an active role in the management of the company, and therefore such a fine really should not be imposed on them. Then during the annual May Day celebration, there's another interesting point, by the way. It was during the May Day celebration, the recent one, of course, 1st of May, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, did announce that the recent challenges in the electricity supply have been effectively resolved. Now, don't forget that 1st of May was a Wednesday, but prior to that, the Vice President, Dr. Bawumia, speaking in the Eastern region as part of his nationwide campaign tour, had indicated that the challenge was going to end soon, only for the President to say on May 1st that it is over. This afternoon, we are probing a very simple question. Is that indeed the case? We take a breather. When we come back, we'll dilate the issue. Don't go anywhere. Yeah. The President of the Republic is always the man who the Constitution says that has preeminence over all other persons in the Republic of Ghana. But apart from that mandate of superiority, his words also carry weight. And so when he did say on the 1st of May that Dumso was over, a lot of people welcomed the news because, of course, it was not coming from any other person but the President of the Republic himself. But is that the reality? Is that the situation on the ground? Is that the fact that we relate with on a daily basis? To delve into the accuracy or otherwise of that particular, if you like, light declaration or energy declaration, 𝗟𝗓𝗓𝗓 Derek is a policy and energy analyst with the Institute of Energy Security, and he joins us this afternoon for this all-important conversation. Derek, you're welcome.
My name's Ed.
Of course, it's always a pleasure to discuss on issues of this nature. But before we get into the actual conversation, I want to pick your experiential view. How has the recent power fluctuations really affected you as an individual?
Well, thanks for the opportunity, and then greetings to your cherished viewers and listeners. Basically, this has never been a good thing. Power crisis is not something anybody would cherish, especially in this hot weather. You can imagine planning to go and do something, and all of a sudden your light goes off. You don't know how to, whether you should even iron or you should just wear or put on your dress that way and just go. For the people who are in the SME, that is the small medium scale enterprises, I feel and then I pity them so much because that is their source of living. They don't get paid at the end of the month, and so as to the number of people that they're able to attend to on daily basis, maybe if you are going for a haircut or the salon or any place, if their number reduces, they don't get anything at the end of the month. And so theirs is not like someone who is being paid at the end of the month. And so I pity them much, and then they are the ones who are worth hit of it. They are so much hit of it that they don't even know how to plan their lives and livelihood. And a lot of people have been thrown out of work as it stands now. Businesses are now experiencing a rise in the cost of production because they have to make use of the alternative. That alternative is to make use of the genset or to make use of their plants. And then those ones, to fuel it yourself, you know the cost of fuel as it stands now. At the various pumps, price of petroleum products have gone up. And so the alternative is not something that is quite cheap. The alternative is more expensive, and so that has also increased the cost of production. So it is not something that is pleasant. The energy sector is another critical sector of the economy that all other sectors hover around it. And so anytime that we are experiencing challenges with the power sector, it's not something that is quite good.
Right, and I think a lot of Ghanaians would share in that particular sentiment as well. As for the unpleasantries, we can all relate with it. But let's look at the genesis of this problem. The earliest we can all recall was between the period 2006 to, somewhere 2007, 8 thereabout, when it was heavily intensified. I do recall by then, ex-President Kufuor was the head of state, and a number of measures were proposed in that regard. The issue seemed to have left us until somewhere 2014, 15, when it resurfaced again, and now we are seeing it in a more, if you like, devastating proportion. From where you sit, analytically, what really do you think is that demon we have not dealt with that keeps on resurfacing almost every 7 years? I mean, really, that is a timeline that I perceive. What do you think is the issue we've all not averted our minds to?
It's not because we've not averted our minds to. It's because of the lack of foresight and how to tackle it and then address the root cause of it. Because the power sector is quite broad, and so when we talk about 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏, as it has become more popular, it's not just from one thing. And so there are several instances in which you can experience 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏. It can be from a generational crisis. It can also be from a transmissional crisis. It can also be from a distributional crisis. So over the years, what we've experienced got to do with generational crisis. So what it means is that we've not been able to generate enough power to meet our peak demand. Basically, our source of power from VRA, or let me say the hydro, and then that of the thermals and the renewables are not enough to meet our peak demand. And it's not quite easy, because for you to be able to bring a power plant on board, it takes a minimum of 1.5 years to be able to bring a power plant on board. So it's not quite easy. And anytime that you are not able to address that generational deficit, then it means that you experience the worst form of 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏, because it is not just a day that you can be able to solve it. So over the years, we've just been managing the issues, trying to bring emergency power plants on board, praying that the rains will fall, because by then we were heavily reliant on the hydro. So the hydro was almost like 60% in our energy mix. As it stands now, hydro is now around 30%. And so the thermal has now taken over. And so it got to an era, 2014, there about 2015, when we were experiencing the worst form of it. The presidents at that time decided to solve it or tackle the root cause of it. And the root cause is how you can be able to bring enough power on board to be able to exceed even your peak demand. And so we had a lot of emergency power plants coming on board. You can remember the Asogli phases, then the Ameri, the car power, and all those. All of them helped us to be able to overcome our peak demand. And so as at that time, we had a lot of power, and that means that we've solved the generational deficit of it. What needs to be done is how to be able to ensure that these power plants that have been brought on board continues to give you power without any sort of interruption. And so that is the first part of it. The second part of it is the transmissional one, and that one is being handled by GRIDCO. And so GRIDCO is the system operator. They know the amount of power that is being generated any day, and then they transmit that power to 𝗓𝗓𝗔 to be able to distribute to our various houses and then businesses. Now GRIDCO, at any point in time that they have challenges with their transmission lines, will equally result in 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏. And so for those ones are not too much that if they experience any let me say breakdown in transmission lines, it will take a longer period of time. No, those ones are quite
easily fixable.
That is it. Within the shortest time, you'll be able to fix it. The same thing applies to 𝗓𝗓𝗔. 𝗓𝗓𝗔 doesn't generate power. They also don't
only distribute.
They only just distribute. So they distribute the power to their various houses. So when they also encounter challenges with transformers or any other thing, it can equally just result into 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏 or power crisis. But the major of it all is the generational, and we've gone past that stage. We've been able to solve the generational deficit. As it stands now, Ghana has a huge dependency ratio, which is very high, and so it means that if you are to...
Derek, I want you to pause your thoughts for me. Now, it appears that for those who are listening, just so we are able to nuance the conversation, when it comes to power supply, it appears that there are 3 substantive outfits that all together work for you to have light in your homes for your daily affairs. There is the outfit that mobilizes the generation of the power. Then the power that is generated is of course transmitted, of course. Then it comes to your through your power channels and your circuits and all of that, and the 𝗓𝗓𝗔 is basically responsible for that. Derek, I'm tempted to ask, if you assert strongly that we do not have a generational problem, which is indeed the biggest issue in the three three layers, sorry, why are we not able to sustain power? If the generational issue has been solved and government communication has insisted that, look, we do not have any generational crisis, where really is the challenge coming from, GridCo or ECG?
So is the ingenuity on the part of government or officials, or let me say the sector players, for them to be more transparent with Ghanaians and tell Ghanaians the reality on the ground. As I said earlier, we don't have issues with generation. What we have issue with is the liquid fuels, or let me say the fuels to be able to power the thermal plants, because the thermal plants have been brought already. They are already there. They can give you 70% of your power that you need on a daily basis. The hydro, you depend on rain, that is from WE or VRA, and so those ones are there. The renewable is not much in the energy mix, and so what is needed right now is issues that got to do with money, because you need money to be able to procure those liquid fuels. And so anytime that you don't have the money, you will not be able to power the thermal plants. And so the issue that we have right now basically is that if the government of the day and then the sector players have the money to be able to procure the liquid fuels, on any day they'll be able to generate enough power. Until then, they wouldn't be able to solve the peak demand.
It's sounding a bit complex in my ears, and I'm sure that our listeners too may not be able to unpack it. So
let me put it this way.
Mean. But first of all, our viewers, I beg your pardon. Okay. First of all, let's just understand it. So there is generation, then there is transmission, then there is distribution. Which body did you say again is responsible for the generation?
The generation are the IPPs, and then the VRA. And then the WE Power and Co.
Okay, so they do the generation. Then it comes to GridCo to do the transmission. Okay, what's the distinction anyway between the transmission and the distribution of the power itself? Because that clarity, I think, will help the conversation.
So basically, there are people that are responsible for generating the power. And as I said, those are the VRA, WE Power. Then when it comes to those who make use of the thermal, those are the IPPs, that's the independent power producers. Now they have the capacity, they have all the machines to be able to generate power for you. Okay, but it's just like you have a car. But for the car to be able to move, you need to fuel the car. And so in as much as you have the car, doesn't mean that if you don't buy fuel into the car, will be able to move. And so we are talking about thermal plants that are currently on board. Okay, for you to be able to procure a new car is quite difficult, or is more difficult than buying fuel to be able to just move around. And so the difficult part of it is to generate the power, and then we are saying that generation capacity
has been
solved. Have enough. We solved it already. And so what is left right now is to be able to just buy the liquid fuel to be able to power the thermal plants, because the thermal plants are what we are having challenges as it stands now. For VRA or for the hydro, we have it already. Anytime that we have enough power, enough rainfall, we will be able to generate enough power from the VRA and the WE Power. But when it comes to the thermal, their only source of survival is to make use of the liquid fuel. And so anytime that you don't have the liquid fuel...
Explain this liquid fuel. Is it like some fritol or something?
No, that's just the gas. You need just the gas to be able to fire it.
For the benefit of...
You just need the gas to be able to fire it. So if the gas is not available, you will not be able to fire it.
Okay.
And so
despite the fact that the thermal
plant is there.
May be there.
Yeah, the plant is actually there as it stands now. And that is the capacity that they use for the calculations. And so how many plants do you have? We have enough plants. And so do you have the liquid fuel to be able to power the plant? No, we don't have it now. And so anytime that you don't have the liquid fuel to be able to power the plant, then you have a generation deficit. That generation deficit on daily basis is not that you don't have the capacity to be able to generate enough power.
The fact that you don't have
you don't have the liquid fuel, you don't have the gas to be able to power the thermal plant. And so anytime the government tells that we don't have DUMSO, they are just trying to avert your mind to it that we don't have that generational problem that we used to encounter way back 2015. But that is just the ingenuity of it, because what is DUMSO? DUMSO basically means that your light is on and off at any point in time. And so whether it is emanating from transmission, emanating from generation or distribution, that is basically DUMSO. And so the issues as it stands right now is to be able to get enough fuel to be able to power the thermal plant. Basically that is it.
Right, basically that is it indeed. And for those of you who are watching from home or in the comfort of your offices on Facebook or on YouTube, we want to paint a picture in your mind. So the image we are projecting on your screens at this particular moment basically exemplifies the nature of power distribution in the country. So you see first off that there's a power generation plant, just like the energy analyst has indicated. So there's a power generation plant that is coming from the Bui Power Authority, the IPS, and then VRA, independent power suppliers. That is what the IPS that you see on your screen currently stands for. Then from there it moves up to the setup transformer. Closely connected is the towers. Then from the towers it comes to the transmission substation. Indeed, that was the same points that our resource person was explaining earlier. Now at the transmission station, of course, it's supervised by Gridco. So you may want to say that is stage number 4. Then it comes to the distribution channel, the distribution substation manned by ECG. The ECG at this point will now use transformers to, as it were, power it to your homes, your offices, your, I nearly said beer bars. Well, beer bars still use electricity anyway, but to your salons and to every other, place where electricity is consumed. Now, based on that cycle that we have exemplified, producer, please, if you could put the image up there again. So, thank you. Yeah, so based on this particular cycle that the ECG themselves released, the challenge now is not a challenge at stage 1. There's nothing wrong at stage 1. There's nothing wrong at stage 2. Indeed, stage 3 appears to be in a perfect working order. The issue would be around stage 4. That is the transmission substation. Now, Derek, let me come back to you. Do you agree? Of course, basically, what the ECG put out is basically what you at IES also analyze. Essentially, there's no difference.
Exactly, but the issues is that when you generate the power, our system is such a way that the one who generates the power is not the one who collects the money. And so somebody generates the power, somebody transmits the power, and then it comes to ECG. Now, ECG is only doing distribution, but the truth of the matter is that it is only ECG that collects the money. And so they become the endpoints, like the revenue collectors. So they collect the money. Then the money that they collect, they now use it to pay those in the supply chain. And so anytime that ECG is not able to collect that total money, that means that you will not be able to pay all those in the supply chain. And so when you were making the introduction, you spoke about the cash waterfall mechanism. And so that cash waterfall mechanism was just a system put in place where ECG will be able to collect the money. When they collect the money, then they use that money to pay those in the supply chain. Now there's a percentage that they pay all those in the supply chain on monthly basis. And so ECG as it stands now, the truth is that they've not been able to ensure full cost recovery. And anytime they're not able to ensure full cost recovery, you won't be able to pay those in the supply chain. And ECG on its own have its own challenges. And one of their major challenges is that they have a huge distribution cost. A huge distribution loss, which is around almost 30.6%. And so I wonder which institution will be able to operate at full efficiency and capacity while they experience 30% loss.
Is that not why in recent times the PRT has been faulting them for not sticking to their part of the bargain in the cash waterfall mechanism, especially when, again, there are revived conversations about how the Ministry of Finance is also not helping the situation. Shouldn't we absorb the blame from the ECG, because really they really would not be doing much if all the relevant stakeholders are not doing their part of the bargain?
And so when it comes to the money issues, these two key institutions, that is the ECG and the Ministry of Finance, are the ones responsible for it. And so even anytime that you've not been able to pay those in the supply chain for them to be able to generate more power for us, then it means that we have to blame the ECG and then the Ministry of Finance, because per the allocations, the ECG will collect the money. Whatever money that you'll be able to collect, they use those ones to settle those in the supply chain. Now anytime that there is a shortfall, that is when the Ministry of Finance now comes in to be able to complement or supplement whatever thing that is needed to ensure full payment for them. Now the Ministry of Finance also for the past months have not been able to ensure their part of the bargain, and so it puts extra burdens on ECG. And so ECG, one on its own, is not able to ensure full cost recovery. Now the government of the day, through the Ministry of Finance, is also not able to give them the needed money to take care of the shortfalls. And so how do you expect them to be able to make or ensure full payment to those in the value chain? Take, for instance, the PURC report for January. It stated that the ECG was supposed to pay those in the category A, which are essentially the IPPs. They are the ones who make use of the 𝗟𝗓𝗪. You're supposed to pay them almost 506 million Ghana cedis. You were able to just pay them just 120 million. And so look at the percentage. 120 out of 506 million Ghana cedis. Over 400 million Ghana cedis, you've not been able to take care of it. Those in the category B, who are less paid. So the cash waterfall mechanism, the category A people are the ones that you are supposed to make sure that you pay them first. Then you get the category B, is like in order of importance basically. Right. Yeah, so those in the category B, the report stated that ECG was not able to pay them. Out of 316 million, they were able to just pay 168. So that one, there was also another deficit of 140.
Right.
And so take that 140, add it to the one from the category 1 that they couldn't pay, that is over 400, over 500 million Ghana cedis deficit. And so the Ministry of Finance was supposed to give them additional 200 million Ghana cedis. They couldn't also fulfill that part. That is almost 800 million Ghana cedis. So with this kind of crisis, how will you be able to ensure that these these IPPs who are not Father Christmas, who also want to ensure that they produce and get revenue for it, are not being paid? How will they be able to survive? They will not be able to survive. And so issues that got to do with generation and then maintenance of their plants, some of them will have to be deferred. And so assuming that you are supposed to give money for me to take care of maintenances, and you don't give me the money, that maintenance that I'm supposed to undertake, I will have to defer it. And if I defer it, the worst form of it is that I can even have a system breakdown. And if I'm not able to generate the power, ECG will also have issues with it. They will not be able to distribute. Then we Ghanaians, we continue to suffer for it. So basically, these are the issues with it.
The issue, of course, if you've been monitoring, is more complex than many of us have imagined, and we are glad that we've been able to get the necessary, clarity in that particular respect. So, if you are just joining us today, we are focusing on Ghana's perennial energy crisis. The issue, as we have, and the challenge at hand is not just about the distribution. It's really about generation and then the transmission of the energy. 𝗟𝗓𝗃𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓 is from the Institute of Energy Security, and he's been giving us all the fine, particulated details on the subject matter. But we're taking a breather. When we come back, we'll come to social media to engage some of your views, and then we'll get into the part that talks about the solutions. Because don't forget that here on the States, we do not only conduct a surgery on the problems, we also try to, as it were, prefer solutions to dealing with everyday issues that affect the ordinary Ghanaian. We are going for a quick commercial break. When we come back, the conversation continues. Don't go anywhere.
Onyankopɔn bɔ wi yo wate Bible say medium adwen a medwen won wonya bɔne bi de adwen be ma wa wi ye pa ene ni da so ɔbɔnefo na pekwan bi afaso awura asetena mu awura brabɔ yi mu nti niam onyame hyehye to ho ma ye no entumi nkɔ sɛnea ɛyɛ ɛkɔ na so onyankopɔn de nkunimdie kwan bi de ato ho ama ye na no ne twase nipa hwehwe akyire kwan ɛyin ye gina nkunimdi a onyame siesie ma ye no na free ho no ye be ye dan ne yetumi asan afa. There should be a point. Saul ewo Damascus kwan so no Christo ehia no until there was a turn in his life. Onyankopɔn soma Jonah, there was a turn ewo na brabom ɛdeɛn na si wɔ abrabom ɛdeɛn na ɛkɔso wɔ asetena mu wɔn a wo hu wɔn no oyi wɔn to hɔ wɔn a woyi wɔn no wɔfrɛ wɔn wɔn a wɔfrɛ wɔn no ɔhyɛ wɔn ani onyam ɛne ntimi dwumadi a wato ne din sɛ turning point ɛde brɛw ɛwɔ Wesleyan TV kwasia da bia anwumrɛ no nkron mesrɛ anwumrɛ no nkron na watena wo TV akyi na me wayɛ mpɛnsɛmpɛnsɛ mu wɔ nyame asɛm mu. There will be a turn na wo de anu onyam hyɛ ɛbɛmɛrad. Shalom, peace.
Mi fie Christian fie mema mi kun aye Christiani na me mofra aye Christian fo mema mi fie aye Christian fie ban papam aye dwumadi a ekoso ewo WTV so kasa afa ekwaya ye tete ye mofra ekwanya yebefa so ama yaware ayefe ne yaware edimu efie entetiye anase efie siesie ene efie nkomodie mu nso yenya entonchen into me to safrew se hwe WTV na ne mapa bebre ewo WTV so enwumpa enkomodie papa ene mapa ebeboa me no mienu ene yemfie Koswara National WTV.
Backstage, we were still on the matter because this is an issue that you cannot finish talking about, because apart from the fact that it affects everybody, sometimes even the heat in our various rooms alone is enough reason for all of us to keep talking about 𝗬𝗪 all the time. Reason we didn't end, and we are now about to continue with you, those of us who are viewing us across social media and of course on television as well. But we'll be going to social media shortly, Facebook in particular, to pick some of your thoughts and your comments. But Derek, I think as of now we've been able to establish the fact that indeed money is central to the problem that we do have now. But the president has given an assurance. Indeed, he has said conclusively that the matter is dealt with. How come we are still seeing darkness in our respective locations?
And so the president of the country was misled. And that is the easiest way I can put it. Because for him to speak at that level, you know, when you have crisis, you should be transparent with people in terms of communication so that you can just give people assurances.
But before the president would make any public declaration, you would presume that he has been well briefed.
Yeah.
And so if you say he was misled, it's rather punchy on an important issue such as this. You wouldn't think the president would be playing with the intelligence and sensitivity of Ghanaians.
So I said he was misled because the one who is supposed to give him the proper briefing is the energy minister. And the energy minister has never accepted in any way that we have 𝗬𝗪. We have power crisis, and so you come and tell that it's 𝗬𝗪. If you like, if you want timetable for yourself, you should be able to get one for yourself. Anyone who requests for a timetable is the one who wishes evil for the country. None of those things is able to solve it. And so for the president to be able to stand on that podium and say that we've been able to address 𝗬𝗪, then as I said, he was misled. Now, why do I say he was misled? On the 30th of April, the system operator, which is 𝗟𝗓𝗃, was able to give us at peak demand 3,500 megawatts of power. And now 3,500 megawatts of power was a little shortfall of our peak demand. You know, it's always in the evening that we have peak demand. That is where everybody have their machines and things turn on. We are all at home. And so Ghana, based on our Energy Commission report, our peak demand is always in the evening. And then in the evening, it hovers around
what time specifically?
That is 10 p.m. thereabouts. So 7 p.m. going to 10 p.m. That is where we have our peak demand. That time, PURC report, or not PURC report, Energy Commission report states that our peak demand for 2024 hovers around 3,700 to 3,750 megawatts. On daily basis, that is what is our peak demand. That is if everybody is supposed to ensure power at home, or for you to have power at home. That is around 3,750 megawatts. Now the system operator, that is 𝗟𝗃𝗃, gave us data that on the 30th of April, the system operator was able to generate power of 3,500 megawatts. And so it means that we're not able to meet our peak demand.
Which is 3,700, by the way.
That is it. So 3,500 against 3,700, you have a deficit of 200. So that 200 means that some people get light, some people will not get light. Now on the day the president spoke, which was on the 1st of May, at 10 p.m., our peak demand, generational peak, that is what the 𝗟𝗃𝗃 was able to put out, was 3,200 megawatts. So it means that even on the day the president spoke, we were not able to even get a day before data, which was around 3,500 megawatts. We were not able to get it. It was around 3,200 megawatts. A
deficit of 500.
Now a deficit of almost 500. On the 2nd of May, we were still hovering around 3,300 megawatts. So for you to be able to tell anybody in the right thinking capacity that you've been able to solve 𝗬𝗪, then it means that at least your peak demand matches your generational peak. So it means that on a daily basis, the amount of power that you've been able to generate, it's equal to your peak demand.
That consumers would need to run optimally.
That is it. At optimum level, you're able to generate that power for them. Now, from that day since the president spoke till today, we've not been able to even reach 3,600 megawatts of power on a daily basis. And so how do you solve a problem that you've not been able to meet its peak demand? And
perhaps that is why the ECG would want to say it is. I mean, I'm not playing the devil's advocate, but I want to be, as it were, fair to their communication. Now, you need averagely the consumption is 3,700.
Yes.
If you've been able to generate, or you're able to generate at least 3,500, we can agree that there is a deficit. But that deficit, if you, I mean, pitch it against the actual capacity that you demand, of course, there will be some deficit, but it is not as huge. Reason for which the ECG may want to say that, look, we only have, isolated outages, as they put it. That is why they will say that it is isolated, because it's not the entirety of the country that will be affected. Is that not fair? Having to solve it by far, I mean, if you need 3,700 Ghana cedis to clear a debt, I want to be practical about it. I'm just creating a practical scenario. You need 3,700 and you have 3,500. Can you not be happy and relieved and say that, look, this is isolated?
And so if, assuming the president has said that we are making efforts to be able to improve the delivery of power to our various homes, and he's telling that, okay, efforts are being underway such that now the amount of deficit that we used to have is not the same as it used to be before, I'm sure you and I would have been more happier. But if you give me an assurance that you solved my power and I wake up the next day and I do not have that power, I'll be more angrier than before. You get the point? And so what we are saying is that since the president spoke till today, data doesn't...
Because it was conclusive.
Yes, it was very conclusive.
Also expecting maximum results.
Yes, because he was very conclusive with it. He said, we've solved it. You get the point. And if you have admitted that even before then, nobody wanted to accept that we are having energy crisis.
In the first place.
In the first place, you get it. So now the president spoke to give assurance to people. Now, on the platform for which he spoke, he was speaking to workers and co. And of late, you've heard 𝗟𝗓 also asking for load shedding. And so more or less it was just an assurance to give to 𝗟𝗓 that, okay, plans are far advanced to be able to solve or address the energy crisis. But what we are saying is that since the day the president spoke till today, we don't have a generational peak that matches our peak demand. Are you getting a point? So what is ECG supposed to do? ECG is the one who is supposed to tell Ghanaians that, okay, I do not have about 200 megawatts of power. For this reason, for these and these people in this location, you won't have power today. But the next day, I'll be able to ration it that you will have power, then other people will not be able to have it. Because that is their role. Their role is that they are supposed to ensure that everybody have power. Now, if everybody is not supposed to have power, what do? Ration the power. Because GridCo, which is the system operator, has confirmed to you that at 10 p.m. peak demand, a peak generation, at generational peak on daily basis, we don't match our peak demand. So what is ECG supposed to do?
Did the president lie under the circumstances? Just before we go into that layer of the conversation, I mean, on the face of the facts, giving clearly that, I mean, his comment contradicted the facts, or the facts rather contradicted his bold assertion. Can we say the president, I mean, was not truthful on that occasion? You
know, to be truthful doesn't matter the number of times you shout, or whether you shout on top of your voice or anything. Whether you are truthful should be supported by data. But this system is not just word of mouth, it's supported by data. So not inductive, it must be more deductive. You get the point? And so if I take system generation as at 30th April at 22 hours GMT, that is 10 p.m., I know how much has been generated from Akosombo, and that is almost 892 megawatts on daily basis. That is just 10 p.m. Bongas was able to give us 148. Tapco was able to give us 256. And then we have the Senate, we have the Siemens, we have the Asogli, we have the Bui Solar, we have the Montema. When you add all of them, I'm saying that on 30th April, we got 3,500 megawatts. On 1st of April, when the president spoke at 10 p.m., we got 3,200 megawatts. It wasn't even up to that 3,500 megawatts. So I'm sure the president spoke on 1st May because of data on 30th of April, which was around 3,500 megawatts.
But that in itself
but
was
on
not
that first, even on that 30th, it wasn't enough to meet our peak demand, because our peak demand is around 3,700. Now, on the 1st of April, when the president spoke, we were able to just have a generational peak of 3,200. That was more or less like an insult to Ghanaians. You get the point? And now from second going, third going, till today, our generational peak at 10 p.m. each day is less than that.
The TUC General Secretary at that same function, we do recall, of course, indicated that they would want governments to come in strong and, as it were, deal decisively with the issue. For the fact that such a Congress was calling for such a move, then clearly we can understand that this whole challenge has economic implications as well. How harsh have those implications been? I mean, from where you sit, I mean, of course, looking at I mean, Ghana's current economic, crisis, matching it against all our debts and all the dwindling factors. How severe is 𝗬𝗪𝗓 really pinching us?
For you to be able to come out a fixed figure of that in terms of monetary terms, that would be quite difficult. But just look at it this way, that if you have power crisis, assuming we are just having this program, then all of a sudden your light goes off. You want to program
I wouldn't want you to say that anyway, because that may be a doomsday prophecy. Because earlier this morning we had a challenge of that nature.
Okay.
So when I hear it again, you can understand I'm not
sorry for that. Then that is how unpleasant the situation might. It's always
absolutely
yeah. So that's very unpleasant situation. So considering the hospitals, okay. If you have a generational deficit, you will not be able to meet peak demand. You are supposed to ration power. Now, in rationing the power, you know that hospitals are scattered across both private and government or public, okay? And you don't know, sometimes they have to allocate and make sure that some critical sectors of the economy, some security installations are able to have power, okay? But some of them, we just live around or we live among them. And so, how will you be able to just say that, okay, you are rationing power? Some people will have, some people will not have. But maybe the house that is, the office or the business that is just closer to me is operating a hospital. And so somebody who is maybe at theater, somebody who is supposed to be at OPD or other things, can experience do so at any point in time. Now, when they experience it, they are supposed to resort to their plant or their generator. Now, maybe for you to be able to fuel that generator, you need fuel. So when I was talking about generation capacity, the plant is there, the thermal plants are there, but you need fuel to be able to power the thing. You get the point? So at the various hospitals or various homes, we make use of generator, we make use of plants and other things. You need fuel, which is petrol or any other thing to be able to fire that particular plant. Now, how much is a liter of fuel now? It has gone up. So it's going to increase your cost of production. If you don't want to do it, the best you can do is that close down the business. Now, consumers will not have access to that particular business. So assuming that the service you are providing is a very essential service, how will you be looking? Imagine if you have to go for some haircut or for you to iron, and I came here with some on iron clothes and co. I'm sure your program, you will ask me to go back. Is that another point? Or somebody is having you are cutting your hair, then in the middle of it, then it goes off. You have to resort to blade, and not everybody will want to just make sure the normal blade. You get the point?
Of course.
And so it happens even at sometimes we are churches, churches praying to God and other things. Then all of a sudden, light goes off. You have to just make sure that you use your macho voices to be able to be praising God. But that will not enhance the work.
As
you get
the
the point?
Inconveniences,
And so,
we can enumerate a lot of them.
Yeah, there are a lot of it. And the bottom line is that it increases the cost of production to businesses.
Absolutely.
And businesses that cannot survive that, they will have to be out of it. And when they run out of it,
certainly
people will also continue to lose their jobs.
Of course.
And so you can imagine the cascading effect of it.
Absolutely. But we wanted to gather your thoughts and propose a few solutions. But before we get that from you, want to go quickly to Facebook and look at some of the comments that have come through so far. A couple of comments have come through. We want to quickly turn our attention to those ones while we continue with the rest of the conversations. We are urging all of you to share your thoughtful and your honest opinions on the matter, actually, because this one is actually important. But Derek, I want to bring this in before we put the social media comments together. Yeah. This is in the air that government is working to, as it were, consult external suppliers to help power the plants. Do you have wind of this information, and how true is that assertion, by the way? Do you think in any way that it is even helpful to the situation?
Yeah, so for the short-term measure, as I said, we've got issues to do with liquid fuels to be able to fire the thermal plants. And so one way the government can be able to resort is to procure some liquid fuels to be able to power the thermal plants. Now, as to the means by which they are going to secure those liquid fuels, you and I will not know the full details of it until it comes out. But what I believe in and what I've heard that government is working on is that they are finding ways and means to be able to ensure some parcels of liquid fuels to be able to fire the thermal plant. But we want to ask, for how long would that be able to be enough for Ghanaians or be sufficient for Ghanaians? Whatever thing the arrangement they want to have, definitely Parliament will have to be aware of it. If Parliament is also not aware aware of it, is like you are getting it on credit. And so when you are getting it on credit, how many days will it be able to provide liquid fuels to be able to fire the thermal plants? Maybe 30 days, maybe 40 days, or say 60 days. Now maximum 40 days or 50 days. That doesn't address the root cause of it, because the root cause of it as it stands right now is for ECG to be able to ensure full cost recovery. They experience 30.6% distributional losses. And so what is the management there for? They are supposed to reduce it, because as I said 2016, the distributional losses was around 22%. And so how come somebody has managed to increase it to say 30.6? What it means that if I give you 100 megawatts of power for it to go and sell and bring me the money, ECG will just account for almost just 60.9%.
Yes,
and so 60.9% will not ensure that full cost recovery. And if you don't ensure full cost recovery, those people in the business chain will not be able to continue with production.
So we need you to tease a couple of solutions in that regard. But yes, like I did indicate, we are turning attention now to Facebook to read some of your comments that have come through so far. This one is coming from 𝗟𝗓𝗙𝗃 Sugar Free. He says that they know what the problem is, but because of their reckless spending, they have no clue as to how to tackle the issue. This one is from Dramani Gina. It says, thank you, Derek, for the in-depth analysis. We are proud of you. So when, now again, Dramani continues that, so when would this government genuinely solve the matter instead of deploying attempts to conceal the reality? Yusuf Mahama Bodombi says that the current 𝗟𝗓𝗙𝗃, I beg your pardon, is an issue of financial mismanagement by sector players. Government should pay the IPP's monies owed them to help them purchase liquid fuel for the thermal plants. Solutions.
So the first one is management of ECG must be more serious, not doing PR work. The PR work is that they don't generate power, they only distribute power. And so at any point in time that GridCo is able to tell them that, okay, this is the amount of power that I can transmit to you, they should be more lenient with Ghanaians and give Ghanaians a load shedding timetable, so that one, they'll be able to manage their lives and livelihood, because without that management, the dire consequences are more dangerous. Now the second part of it, the government is also supposed to fulfill its part, that anything that's got to do with shortfall support, the government will be able to release it to them, because if the government doesn't release the shortfalls to them, they will also not be able to pay those in the supply chain. The next thing is that they should comply strictly with the cash water flow mechanism, because that is what the government or the president has asked everybody to comply with. And the ECG are also making advance payments or advances to be able to ensure that.
Just to be clear, cash for water mechanism, just break it down in very, very simple terms.
And so, as I said, that is just a mechanism by which a priority of priorities are being paid. And so it's a mechanism where people are being paid their due of money.
Waterfall mechanism, I mean,
yes,
right.
Cash waterfall mechanism.
Right.
And so it's a mechanism that has just been put in place where those in the value chain can be paid. Now, how do you get them to be paid? Some are being paid ahead of the others. And so we have the category A players or the category 1, which essentially are the IPPs. And so at every point in time, they are supposed to be paid some amount of money. In cedi terms, it's almost 506 million Ghana cedis. Okay. Now, those in the category B includes some other people like VRA, even ECG itself, PURC, and all other stakeholders are in the category B. Surprisingly, for the month of January, VRA was not paid any cedi. Meanwhile, VRA also generates power. Are you getting the point? And so they should make sure that they comply strictly with the cash waterfall mechanism. Now, the last part of it is that ECG as a body must be more professional. They should up their game. PURC says that before you can give someone load shedding timetable, notify the person at least 72 hours. And so Ghanaians should be more respected. Give Ghanaians that benefit of doubt. Give them some 72 hours notice before you take off their time or their light, so that whoever that needs to do something will be more comfortable in planning for it. Other than that, we will continue to experience these challenges. Now, the last thing is that ECG must make sure that they improve their revenue collection. The illegal connections, they themselves even aid some of them. You get the point? And so these are all part of the distributional losses. And so some of the big men in their houses, you cannot even go there for revenue collection. And so we brought in the PDS and it became a fiasco. You get the point? And so as people that they are, they should be more professional, improve their revenue collection, and when they're able to improve their revenue collection, we'll be able to pay those in the supply chain, because as it stands now, we have enough capacity to generate power. But the issue is that we don't have the money to be able to procure the light crude to be able to fire the thermal plants.
Very elaborate, as it were, submission there, because of course it puts a lot of clarity to the confusion, and I'm sure if you followed proceedings from the very start up to now, you would have clearly understood why we are here. But thankfully, here on this platform, we have suggested, you know, a couple of mechanisms that if we embrace, the situation may, of course, be a thing of the past. The ECG, of course, must go ahead and enhance its attempts at mobilizing revenue and clearing, I mean, all those who are indebted to that particular outfit. But there is more. But I think, in conclusion, Derek, it wouldn't be bad to say that honesty is also important. But for all of us who are watching, we are praying, and all of you at home, we are praying that the situation gets better very soon. My name is Paa Kwesi Schandorf. It's been a pleasure bringing you up to speed with today's edition of The State. For all of you who watched and shared, thank you, and bye-bye.